What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Waking up again extremely early in the morning because my sleep schedule is still such an entire mess. I can't sleep properly throughout the night. I keep waking up hour after hour after hour, and by the time it's like 5 or 6 in the morning, I'm like, screw it, this is exhausting. So here I am early on in the morning trying to record some videos, and we have some more RPG horror stories with us for today. Let's get to them right now. Rant seeking advice. My first problem player in my first campaign. Hey everyone, I've been running my first ever campaign for about 3 months now, and I really need to vent about a problem player who's making the experience more stressful than it should be. At first the issues were small. He'd accidentally roll an extra die on attack rolls, claim his AC was 3 points higher than it should be, and spend more key points than he actually had. As a new DM, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, thinking it was just innocent mistakes. But over time, the problem snowballed. The metagaming became rampant, especially whenever he felt he wasn't properly rewarded with loot after encounters. If another player got a shiny new piece of gear that he didn't, he'd throw a tantrum in-game. He started lashing out at important NPCs, derailing important moments, walking all over the dialogue, and steering the group into directions that were clearly bad for everyone. Feels like he's punishing the game whenever things don't go his way. Ah, I see. You're either dealing... God, it feels like I'm playing like a Phasmophobia where I'm trying to figure out what sort of problem player you're dealing with. I'm noticing signs of a main character syndrome, potentially a Mary Sue, or just being a whiny tantrum baby. I can't tell. It's one of those three. I suppose we'll get more clues as we play RPG Phasmophobia. As we read more. Now it's gotten to the point where I have to check his character sheet every session and during session to make sure there's no shady stuff going on. It's exhausting, and I hate that I have to be the fun police with him just to keep the game running fairly. DM, I have a genuine question. Do you really want that? Like, do you want to be exhausted by being the fun police? Honestly, I would just give the guy an ultimatum, say, hey, listen, I don't want to be the fun police. I don't want to be checking your character sheet, but your character sheet constantly has discrepancies and some sort of overpowered stuff that's constantly new every single session. How about we do this? You stop editing your character sheet or you're out, because I'm not tolerating this stuff. I want to enjoy my time, not be constantly exhausted checking the only character sheet that constantly seems to have a discrepancy. The worst part, this player brought 2 other friends into the campaign with him, and they've been awesome. No issues with them at all. They're engaged, respectful, and a joy to DM for. But because I've known the problem player for years, I know that if I confront him directly and enforce consequences in game, he'll drop out and probably take at least one of his friends with him. If that's a situation that's gonna happen, I would say just talk to the players directly and just lay them out exactly what the issues are, and that you want the players to stay because you generally do enjoy their company and their time. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't control people. If this problem player that you have takes his buddies along with you, then, I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately. But hey, you can always find other players as well. There's more to the story, and I don't want to, like, constantly jump in every paragraph, but I'm just offering what maybe I would have done in this situation. Just a little bit of my 2 tiefling cents, if they're worth any. Here's the tricky bit. Outside of TTRPGs, he's fine. I don't dislike him as a person, but in this setting, he's become the worst kind of player. Hyper-competitive in a non-competitive game, always arguing over the rules, and constantly pushing back against authority. To make things even worse, he's older than the rest of us, so he's constantly little broing us, acting like the seasoned veteran who knows better. I'm sure some of you can relate. He's one of those can't live with them, can't live without him types of friends. That's actually kind of common with some problem players. Like, outside of TTRPGs, they're fine. And they're okay to hang out with. They're not terrible people necessarily, but something about TTRPGs makes them turn into some sort of a brat or main character Mary Sue kind of persona, and they just become the worst. And they just constantly want to be like the center of attention and stuff. I think it's just a difference of they're just a terrible player at a TTRPG table, but they're fine outside of it. So maybe the best thing to do is just not play TTRPGs with this person. Sometimes it's just literally their behavior is a problem at the table, but outside of that, they're perfectly fine and actually enjoyable and courteous and good. It's just something about TTRPGs where they involve with people that need to be the center of attention. If not, they act like whiny little babies. But as much as I put up with his quirks, he's prone to big fat baby fits when things don't go his way, and I really don't want to lose this campaign. Spent a lot of time working on it and crafting the story, and I think I've done a pretty great job with the narrative. Everyone else, when they're not annoyed with him, has been really enjoying the game and has told me they're engaged with the story. I even caught them on Discord theorizing about whether the plot will go, which makes me feel like all my hard work is paying off. All that is to say, losing at least 2, if not 3, players on my 6-player party to remove one problem player would be devastating. Has anyone else been in a situation? How do you deal with a player like this when the cost of losing them is so high? Any advice on handling the situation, tanking the whole campaign? It's one of those things where you just gotta get out of the way. If he ends up taking 1 or 2 people with him, then so be it. You have players that are genuinely enjoying the content that you're providing, the game that you're providing, and I feel like if they really like it, they'll stick around, regardless of if this problem baby, we're just gonna call him problem baby because he's been a whiny baby. If the problem baby decides to leave, I think more often than not, you have a situation where most players, I think, would want to stay. And in fact, if you are worried about some players leaving, talk with them directly. Explain to them why you're having a problem with a problem baby. Maybe you can discuss this issue as a group, or maybe you can talk to the player directly and say, listen, I can't be having this. You gotta tone this stuff down. Things need to be changing. I want to say no D&D is better than bad D&D, but even if you, let's say hypothetically, worst case scenario, you lose the 3 players, you have other 3 players that are fully invested and committed to wanting to play. And there's nothing wrong with having 3 players in your group. In fact, it could be a little bit more of a focused experience where you can have most of the events be focused around the players that you are playing with. I don't think you need to have all 6 people in a party for you to continue this fun game. If people are invested and theorizing about what's coming up ahead, right? Then even if you did lose 3 people, the 3-person party is enough to still have fun with. That's 3 people that actually want to stick around with your game. That's a lot more than it could be in any situation. People would kill for 3 people in a party. And if anything, you could always find fills from friends of friends. Maybe some of the players that would stay have some friends that also invested in this sort of thing. Maybe they could join part of the campaign. You could figure out some sort of a vetting system to get players that actually want to play and go from there. Either way, DM, I wish you good luck. Let's get to the next story for today. GM doesn't understand consent, even after being explained how it works. This is a story with the GM, male 30s, essays my character in D&D, and upon confronting him about it, doesn't understand what's wrong with it. He didn't even think it was SA. That is horrifying. If somebody essays fictionally and they don't understand it's SA, what happens when they try that IRL? That is a horrifying thought. Let's see what's more to this story. I, female 26, met this GM about a little over a year prior via a dating app. He was super chill and mentioned being an experienced dungeon master for about 5 years. I spectated some of his prior D&D sessions and he seemed really good at what he does and treated his players really well. That's why it was so particularly shocking when he did what he did. Safe to say, I will not be playing D&D with him ever again after this event. Maybe when he introduced himself as a dungeon master, maybe it was a bit more like the kinky dungeon master, not like a D&D dungeon master. He could still be a kinky dungeon master, but still play D&D and DM. Maybe his kinky dungeon master side came out and was a little bit risque there. Maybe. I don't know. Listen, it's a really dumb joke. Pretend like it's funny. Let's continue. My friends and I have been looking for a GM for a while now, and since I had known him for about a year, I figured it was safe to introduce him to my friends and offer him up as our GM. Upon introducing each other, they all got along swimmingly and began planning for session 0 without a hitch, except for my best friend, female 29. Before session 0, my bestie tells me she doesn't like the new GM, but is willing to continue due to everyone else liking him. She would tell me he would make misogynistic jokes about how women belong in a kitchen, how women aren't smart, and a man constantly has to make up for her lack of skills, or how they shouldn't have the right to their own reproductive systems. This would all happen whenever I'm not around. I really should have canceled everything when she told me about how he would complain to my male friends about how I am an idiot for rejecting his romantic feelings for me, about 4 times by the way, and would insult my current partner and rant about how he's so much better in comparison. Ah, I see. So we have a very misogynistic guy that thinks you're an idiot for not picking me. Is he like, what, a pick me incel? Jesus Christ. Whenever your bestie told you all that, you probably should have been like, yeah, maybe I don't have this guy as a DM. Maybe it's a bad idea. Let's find literally anybody else. But just like my bestie, I decided to let it go, as everyone else seemed to like him. Horrible decision. He was a good GM, and it's so hard to find a GM in our area that speaks English. This takes place in Japan. Fast forward a few sessions later, we're all having fun and everything is going well. The party is forced to stay in a brothel in the Underdark, as is the cheapest accommodation, and camping outside posed a risk due to things that were happening to this story at the time. For context, I play a very socially awkward and anxious lesbian warlock. It has become a running gag in the game that beside how horribly her social interaction with women go, they always end up obsessed with her by the end of the interaction. I wonder if that gag is specifically orchestrated by the GM. Maybe the GM is trying to hit on you using NPC characters in-game. I don't know, honestly. Or maybe you just have really high charisma. I don't know what's going on. But I feel like maybe this is just a guy trying to be a little bit too pushy with your character. Anyway, let's continue. Back at the brothel, my warlock decides to shoot her shot with one of the prostitutes. And due to the prostitute insisting that she has to be paid for her time, even if it's just conversation, gets paid by my warlock. Upon getting paid, the prostitute drags my warlock to a bedroom and attempts to get sexy with her. I really don't want to roleplay anything sexual, so my warlock tells the prostitute that she doesn't have to do anything. She can keep the money, and all my warlock wants to do is talk and get to know her. Was willing to pay even more for the inconvenience. Nope. My warlock proceeds to be struggle-snuggled, and the GM goes into detail about how the prostitute forced herself on my warlock, despite her protest and crying. It was pretty horrific, and I could see the discomfort on my friends' faces. Of course, by the end of it, my warlock was very traumatized. She was no longer the funny, socially anxious character that always said the most awkward thing during conversations. She was not depressed, and fearful of people whenever they showed even the slightest bit of interest in her, which unfortunately ended the running gag. The GM must have hated this, as he quickly got tired of this and offered a memory erasing potion to my character that lets her forget the trauma, which my character of course drank, and acted like herself again before all the trauma. I got a lot of questions. First of all, you can say, hey DM, stop, no, I'm not interested in this is not happening, I'm not cool with it, I'm not comfortable with this. Can we retcon all this and just not have it happen? You are, as a player, allowed to say no to situations that make you feel genuinely uncomfortable. This isn't some combat encounter where BBAG is taking away your precious family heirloom necklace or something. This is straight up SA in-game by an NPC that you aren't cool with. And if you're not cool with this situation happening to your player character, you can straight up just say, nope, GM, no, not happening. I'm not cool with it. This is not for me. Let's not do this. This is not happening. Also, what are the other players thinking about this? Did they not speak up and say, hey, this is not cool. What are you doing? Why do we have an SA out of nowhere just like right then and there? Why is this happening? What's going on? Maybe people were just nervous or something, but like, you need to call that stuff out if you see it. If you call it out and stop it midway before it devolves into ending the session with I have also a comment about that specifically, but you can speak up and say that you're not cool with something if something is happening actively and you are not cool with it and you don't like it. You should actually, in fact, use your voice to speak about stuff that you're not cool with. But instead, you're role-playing through the part that your character becomes depressed, and then the solution the DM gives you, a memory wipe potion. Their answer is basically something like a roofie at this point, but a more stronger roofie to make you forget that your character was SA'd, so you can go back to normal. Nothing about the situation is normal. This will be a perfect situation to say, nope, I'm not doing this. If this is continuing, I'm out. I'm just not playing this game. But there's still more to this, so let's see what happens. When at the end of the session came and people began to go home, I pulled the GM aside and asked him what the hell was that all about. I explained how he can't be just dropping roleplay changes event like that onto my character without at least talking to me about it first, especially when it's something as explicit as SA. I was expecting him to apologize and say that he won't do it again, and I was willing to let it go. Why? I didn't want to argue or fight. I just didn't want that kind of thing happening again. But lo and behold, he didn't even understand how it was SA. I was bewildered. First of all, no, you shouldn't be letting it go. You should not be letting go of these sort of situations. I feel like that just give the guy an easy pass. If you could just say, I'm sorry, and suddenly it's just forgotten. You shouldn't just forgive and forget. This is not something you should be forgiven forgetting. He just, I don't know, is like, okay, your character get essayed, just so casually. If that's not a red flag that's going off right now in your head, then I don't know what other red flag you need. He did tell you at the end of this paragraph, though, that he didn't see anything wrong with it. Or what did he say again? He didn't understand how it was SA. That is another red flag. Probably means you shouldn't have this guy be your DM. If he can't understand the concept of SA or doesn't think what happened earlier is considered SA. If it's not consensual and people don't want it, then it is SA. My alarm bells are going off like crazy. I'm so deaf from all the alarm bells going wee woo wee woo. Either way, let's continue with this. Shocked and unsure how to talk about it, I just began to explain how consent works. How because my character never consented to doing anything sexual with a prostitute, even making it clear that she didn't want to do anything outside of just talking. Remember, this is a 30-year-old man, Lamau. He was so confused, saying it was an SA because my character paid the prostitute and she was just doing her job, which was to do sexy things with people. I kept reiterating that even if it is her job to do things like that, SA is still SA. I even explained that people in that field of work would know better than anyone how important consent is. But nope, he just couldn't seem to grasp the idea of understanding of how this was SA, no matter how much I explained. He just kept going back to, but you paid, and that was her job. And this is a perfect time to be like, hey, I don't think I want you to be our DM anymore. Because if you can't understand the basics of consent, and the situation that my character went through is going to happen again and again and again because you can't understand the general basics of it, then yeah, probably don't want to have you DMing for my group or anybody at the table. I hope that's the next thing you say to him, because if the guy can't understand consent but you still let him DM, then I mean the onus is going to be on you at that point. And I don't want to OP blame, but if you don't see the problem in this and the red flags that are clearly in your face and choose to remove that guy, I'm gonna get mad. I'm gonna get straight up mad. I'm gonna be a mad little tiefling. I was so embarrassed after this session due to my friends messaging me and asking what the hell was wrong with him and why I introduced someone like that to them. I had to defend myself and explain that I had no idea that he was ever going to act like that. Had to apologize on his behalf for his behavior. After that session, my friend slowly began to drop out of session after session, till eventually the entire campaign wasn't happening anymore. And he wonders why the campaign didn't work out. Lol. It's been a while since then, and my friends and I have theorized that maybe this is his weird, freaked up way of coping with the rejection. Can someone really be this clueless about how consent works? It terrifies me to think that there might be more people like him out there. What terrifies me even more is that he claimed to work as a professional dom before. Oh god, what a nightmare. Oh my god, remember when I said that he's probably actually like a sexy dungeon master? He's a professional dom, but in a really creepy way, where he thinks SA is okay. Maybe that's why his business didn't work out, because the guy just doesn't know what consent is. Anyway, the best thing to do in that situation, just ever for the future, for either you or anybody out there, is if you have a DM that's being extremely weird, you need to stop him. You are allowed to say no. You're allowed to stop the session midway and say, nope, no thank you, I don't like this. Let's retcon it and never do it again. It's not worth staying in this. No D&D is better than bad, creepy SA D&D. Trust me, it's just not worth your time. Your time is better spent doing literally anything at all. Literally looking at paint drying or grass growing would be more satisfying than playing this game. That tells a lot. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.